Hey there, everyone. What's up? Today, we're going to talk about another game that I'm excited to talk about. And for once, it's not a first person dungeon crawler, it's Soul Sacrifice on the PlayStation Vita. And Soul Sacrifice, what can I say about it? It's awesome. Besides that, though, let me go more in depth as to why it's awesome. So, first, Soul Sacrifice, I want to say it's like a very dark fantasy kind of game. Um, your main character you create, he's initially nameless, and you give him a name, and or her, I guess too. It's not just a him, but you create your character, and you start off by hunting monsters. Basically, it's in the same kind of genre as a game like Monster Hunter, in that kind of fight giant bosses in an arena type game. But Soul Sacrifice, I think I found I enjoyed a lot more than Monster Hunter for a lot of reasons, but I'll get into that. So, Soul Sacrifice, you create your character, and you learn that the character is uses magic. All the characters use only magic. There's no weapons, there's no armor, there's no accessories or something to use. There's only magic types, and there's hundreds of types of magic. It's pretty well varied, but not to say that there's hundreds of different 100% different spells. They usually have a type of spell, a range spell, a kind of tracking spell, a ground spell, or a summoning spell or something, and they're usually given a type of I'm trying to think of how I can explain it. A kind of ability, like and the word I want is not coming to me, but it's like fire or ice or an element, I guess I'd say. Fire, ice, poison, electricity, and stone. So there's five, and basically each of the monsters has a certain weakness towards a certain ability. So you'll be able to you know use a bunch of them, even if you're specialized towards a certain one. Like my character was mostly specialized towards ice, but generally you can switch up your abilities to make yourself stronger with any type of magic. So you'll have to, because you have to use all the different types of magic on all the different types of bosses. And some of the bosses don't have an explicit weakness towards some certain type of magic. So sometimes you'll find, like, oh, there's the jack o' lantern, which is a fire boss, and he's weak to ice. So you'll want to buff your ice powers and use a lot of ice magic to lock him. And I say lock him in that in this game there are kind of abilities for locking a character. So if you hit someone with enough ice spells, they'll get frozen in a block of ice, and you can follow that up with a special attack that will cause an enormous amount of damage. So it's beneficial to you to try to lock the characters. But you'll also find that, like, you can lock characters even if they're not weak to the spell. So if the same jack-o'-lantern, he's weak to ice, but if you use stone only, you could still lock him with stone. So it's not set. You probably would have trouble locking him with fire, but because he's strong against it. But everything else you could lock him with. Um, what else can I say? So there's a rather varied amount of character options. Besides the magic, there's a ton of different types, and it's a lot of fun to kind of specialize your character towards attacking or defense or buffs or whatever. And you'll find that by doing that, you have a lot of options also for how you fight. So you can fight with, you can be range based and use lots of mortars and kind of tracking spears and stuff like that. Or you can be an up close kind of melee fighter with, lots of fast sword strikes or smashing hammer type blows. It's actually, like, it's really quite varied, more so than something like a weapon specialization, I think, because you can really switch it up in the middle of the battle because the magic is flexible. So if you want to, like, shoot mortars from afar and then rush in and smash somebody with a hammer, you can do it because you can make all that stuff with your magic. And that's, like, pretty good. It gives you a lot of options for your characters. And there's, of course, a lot of costumes with a lot of different colors. I think I have 13 or 14 costumes at the moment, and they all have 6 basic colors, and then there's some special ones you can unlock by doing some special things. But you'll find also that the enemies are also pretty varied considering. I mean, this is a game like Monster Hunter, so you'll find that you do fight the same bosses in a kind of different formats or in different situations a bunch of times. But there are a lot of like weak enemies. There's only 4 maybe weak enemies, um, and but there are of course elemental types of these enemies. So it's varied. They don't all have the same weakness, and they don't all have the same kind of attack pattern. So it's a little bit varied. But there's also the main bosses, which there are kind of a lot of. If you played something like God Eater, it's there are if you've played the first God Eater, not Burst, but just God Eater, there's only like 6 large bosses total, I think. Maybe even less than that. Maybe it's 5. But in Burst, there's a couple more. Like it's maybe 7 or 8. But it's still like compared to this game, that's like maybe half. There's a lot of different types, and I say that because some of them are kind of reskins in that like there's the jack-o'-lantern, which is a fire, and then there's like a stone version called the golem and an ice version called the Jack Frost, and they have different attacks and they do different things, so it's a little bit different. But they are different. They look reasonably different. I mean, the fire one is hollow, and the ice one is a big block of ice, and the stone one is a big stone. So they actually do look a bit different. And then later on there's things like the other types of characters that have different types of variations. It's pretty. The variations are actually pretty good in some cases where like, oh, there's like the Cyclops is another pretty tough boss where he doesn't have any elemental weaknesses, so you fight the Cyclops, and there's another like a different kind of version of him, a female version called Saline, and or Selene, I guess. I'm not sure what it'll be in English, but Serene is the Japanese. But that one is water based, and it does like different attacks, so it looks pretty similar, except I mean overall it's similar, but the design itself is completely different. So it gives you the feeling that even though it's kind of like almost like a reskin, it gives the difference that like it's a totally different monster because it does different things, and it does you know look reasonably different, and it has different weaknesses, so you'll find that you have to fight it differently. So it's different than just like this is the same monster with a different color, more powered up. It's not like that, which actually gives it the feeling that there's a lot more monsters than they've actually made, which is great. I mean, it really makes the game replayable a lot, which is important for this type of game. But that's the basics of the game. But there is a story. There's a single player mode for the story, and I played through the story. I played through all of it, and I gotta say I really enjoy the story in this game. It's not super in depth, but it's interesting in a way that like it's played out through these cutscenes in a book between battles, and the story is really interesting. There's a lot of kind of twists and turns in it that are not like super unpredictable, but they're interesting enough that like when they happen, you're kind of like, oh, that's pretty cool. And like the mechanics of the world that are really interesting. There's lots of little journal entries in the book describing like certain monsters and how they became a monster, and certain like areas of the world, and these different types of people in the world. It's really interesting. Like the story is really dark, and all the characters are weird or screwed up in some way, and it's a really kind of dark fantasy, but it's dark fantasy that's really kind of grotesque. It's not gritty. I wouldn't say like it's like a gritty world. It's like a grotesque world in that like everything is deformed and creepy and weird, and even the people you meet when they're normal are not normal. So, and you're definitely probably not normal either. But I mean, the reasons behind that is explained for everyone, and that's what makes it really interesting. So it's generally when people play something like Monster Hunter, the first thing they'll usually say is like, oh, people don't usually play Monster Hunter for the single player. Like, you don't play it for, you play it for playing with other people online or playing in a group or fighting monsters at a party. And that's generally what it's for. But with Soul Sacrifice, even if you didn't want to play online, you'd have maybe a 20 to 25 hour single player campaign that's totally worth playing because it's interesting and you can really get into the kind of lore of the world and the characters. And you'll find that it's a lot of fun. I mean, I really enjoyed the single player, and I probably have put more time in just repeating single player story elements by myself than I have playing online with other people. And so that's, it says something good about the single player in this game, in that it's totally possible to play it single player and not ever touch the online. And a downside to that is that there is an online pass for this game, which it was like really, I wouldn't even have noticed it actually if there wasn't I pre-ordered it and it came with codes to download some extra costumes or something. And I was looking at the sheet for the codes, and I looked at the bottom, and there's like, oh, there's an online pass? Weird. So it actually checks for the online pass every time you sign online, which is all, it's a little annoying, but, whatever. I know a lot of places have online passes now, but I don't really mind the online pass because I bought it new, so I don't really care. But if you're thinking of waiting and buying it used, you probably shouldn't because it's got an online pass. But what else can I say? The online is stupendous for this game. And I say that because, like, first, there's a lot of people on. There's always people on, no matter what time you play, no matter how many people you're looking for. There's always people on, no matter what level. So it's good. You always have a party that's ready to go. And I want to say that no matter how the bars, like the ratings for the characters is, like their internet connection, it's almost always like perfectly smooth. I've played like matches with like everybody has one bar in their latency, but I'm still smooth as anything and everything goes smoothly, no lag, no nothing. So it's really done well. So I can't complain about that. And there are some battles where like you really want to have a party. There's a lot of extra battles in the game, the Avalon sections, which are kind of like just straight up monster battles. There's not really a story, but you'll go through the Avalon sections and they're kind of sectioned by difficulty, so there's 1 through 10. And if you play through this, you have to beat the story to unlock 8, 9, and 10, I believe, and a lot of the challenge matches for later. But I've done about up to 9, so I'm halfway through 9 right now, and after I finish that, I'll work through 10. So I haven't completely finished all the Avalon sections, but I have finished the story and defeated Merlin and whatever. But I want to say that the multiplayer is also definitely worth playing. I've already beaten the game, and I still play it all the time. I just want to make my character stronger, want to like make a different character with different specialization. It's really good to work on this game. Like you have a lot of goals that you can set for yourself to make a really interesting character and make an interesting character to play online with other people, which is another element that's really good. Because normally I don't even play games online. I don't like to play games online with strangers, but like in this game there's not really chatting or anything. There's no voice chat. Well, I mean, there probably is voice chat, but I don't think anyone has used it, not with me at least. And there are kind of like set phrases you can put in, which pretty much everybody uses, even though you can type your own things. Everyone just uses the set phrases, and it's go, and everybody is cooperative and works together. And I've never had any problems with anybody online for the community for it, which is really nice. Everyone really wants to work together, so it's nice. People ask like, how should we set up our thing before the match, and like people go through and they match each other's spells so they can get the kind of best effects and everything. It's really a good community so far, and it's there's a lot of people, so it's nice. So I don't know. Well, I can't really gush more about this game. I'm sure there's things I'm forgetting to talk about, which I will kick myself afterwards for forgetting. But this game, it's definitely worth having. If you don't have a Vita, it's worth buying a Vita for. I mean, not that there's not any games for the Vita. There's a lot of stuff for the Vita. Looking over at my Vita collection, steadily growing. I have a huge list of Vita games that I want, and this was way at the top, but it's definitely worth having. I'm definitely not disappointed with it. And if you're on the fence with a Vita and you're just thinking, I need that one game to get me over, this is it, Soul Sacrifice. Um, that being said, it's not out in the US or Europe, but I know it's coming out in the US relatively soon, maybe a month or so. And when it's out, you should definitely pick it up and try it out because it's worth it. It's definitely worth it. So, okay, what else can I say? Soul Sacrifice is stupendous. It's definitely sucking up a lot of my gaming time, and it's definitely. I want to say it's also the type of game you can pick up and play for 15 minutes and then put down. It's really great that it's a portable game, actually, in that, like, you can pick it up, play against one match, and I play on the train to and from work often by myself, and I find that, like, sometimes I can get in 2 or 3 boss hunts for, like, kind of mid-level stuff pretty simply, so I can kind of quickly build up some of the magic strength that I'm looking for. And I didn't mention that by fighting bosses multiple times, you'll get multiple magics, and you can combine the magics to make stronger magics, and you can combine different types of magic to make other newer types of magic. So you'll find that you'll want to fight bosses more than once just to get more items in order to make new magics to make yourself, better in better ways, which is pretty interesting actually. It's a pretty nice way to it's the standard Monster Hunter collect things to make stronger weapons kind of formula, but it's done really well in Soul Sacrifice because it's simple and self-explanatory. Like, you don't have to look up any ways to make things. It's all given to you in a list, and to make stronger versions of it, it's just the same thing at the same level. So it's really simple, but it's really flexible in that there's a lot of stuff you can do. So I don't know what else to say really, because I want to just gush about this game more. I wish more people had it. If anyone wants to play, hit me up, because I'll definitely join your party, because I'm playing this pretty much all the time when I'm at home. And I don't play it constantly. I just play it, put in 15, 20 minutes, put it down, maybe do something else, and then come back to it, play 15, 20 minutes more. And it's really good for that. So yeah, Soul Sacrifice on the PlayStation Vita. I didn't mention also that this game is maybe the first retail game by Concept, which is Keiji Inafune's new company, which is, it's a good start for him. So he's the creator of Mega Man. So if you're interested in that and you think, like, that guy makes good games, well, he does. And this is another example. So I'm going to run out of space on my card here, so I'm going to end this video. So I will talk to you guys next time.